Hello, everybody, and welcome to the stream scene. I am joined here this week by Bluejay and JessyQuil. How's it going, guys?
Good.
So in this episode, we're going to be talking about mental health and streaming. We normally have, we talk about gaming news and streaming news for a little bit during our episode, but we actually don't really have much to talk about this week. So we'll be talking about, Jessy and Bluejay's channels for a bit, and we'll lead into our topic of the week. So kind of a different format this week as our last episode of the winter season. So good to have you guys. Bluejay and Jessy, tell us a little bit about you guys. Who are you and why are you here?
Well, I'll go first because I'm in the middle. I'm Bluejay. I'm a full-time variety broadcaster over on twitch.tv/Bluejay. I also do RPG shows on twitch.tv/Roll20app, D&D, and Roll For It. I'm here because Loco thinks I'm great. I'm pretty sure is the reason.
Yeah. I'll say that.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought. No, I'm here because I happen to be a broadcaster who is, I would like to say, informed and open about my mental health and about mental health in general. And I'm excited to talk about that stuff.
Good to have you. Jessy, what about you?
Hi, I'm JessyQuil. I'm a part-time, super casual and sporadic caster on Twitch. I started off as a lurker, then a mod, and then a community manager. Then I did PR for games for a while, and now I'm back to Twitch just being a very casual hobby for me. And one of my main niches on Twitch is to talk about psychology and neurology, cybersecurity, and mental health in general on my casts as well as panels, because it's something that I studied in university and I have a little bit of credentials in, and it's something fun to share and might as well have those student loans go to use somewhere.
And you guys have an interesting journey on Twitch because, a lot of the people that we have on our show, they're like, I'm a full-time variety caster. That's me. That's what I do. But you guys kind of like have really diversified what you do in the space. What has your journey been like from, starting to now? And I guess what made you want to branch out in this way in the industry?
Go ahead, Jessy.
Okay. So I kind of heard about like what Justin TV was, and I watched a little bit of it here and there. Started with people like Towley because I was really into World of Warcraft and he did a bunch of raiding and stuff. And then I made an account and kind of started talking, and then Justin TV became Twitch and I was really confused by that. So I didn't really do anything about it. And then eventually it was announced that Justin TV was shutting down in a year. So I'm like, oh, let me like transfer my username over. And I did that. And I started watching WoW casters and a few variety casters for games that my PC totally couldn't handle. So things like Dark Souls and XCOM, and sometimes even like smaller indie games because I had like a silly little HP laptop. And then I started talking, and then people were like, oh, you really understand like this Twitch thing and you should be my mod. And then I started to become mod for some people, and then they saw I was mod for other people. And then it just escalated, and eventually some people asked me to do community management for them, and I would help them figure out the games to play and how to rein in chat if they were too trolly or they were doing too many negative jokes. And then figuring out for some broadcasters how to branch out into doing more IRL casts, in the sense of like before IRL was a thing. So doing talk shows and like being able to just chat with your community and like have coffee in the morning or late night sort of real talks. And then from that, in the middle of that, I started broadcasting myself too. And I think I'm coming up on my 3 years of broadcasting in January or so. And
awesome.
It's weird. It's weird because like I've never really adhered to a schedule. I might like stream 1 week like 5 times, and then I just don't do it for another 4 weeks or something because IRL just gets in the way. And that's something that I've always kind of kept to heart, that you need to make sure that everything in real life is down pat before you spend time on hobbies or creative outlets, unless they're related to like art therapy, but that's a whole nother story. And then because of my community management, I got into the field of video game PR, and I did that for 7 months or so. And then I realized it was just too stressful for me, and it started making Twitch something that gave me a lot of anxiety, and I didn't want that to happen. So I left that and I went back to IT, which was my career in college and a few years afterwards. And I'm much happier now because I have stability in a job and I'm really good at it. And Twitch became something fun again. And I found my way from doing little voice acting in some indie games or for their trailers or hosting panels or interviews here and there throughout this year. And all throughout that, I've been an advocate for mental health awareness and advocacy and psychology in general, and just educating my community on different things. Like, for instance, we played an indie game called Perception, and you play as a blind woman who has to use a cane and echolocation to get around. And from that, I was like, is that really a thing? And I found research in the last few years where that actually is a thing. And you can teach sighted people how to navigate with echolocation. And so I brought all these studies together, and then I talked for half an hour on my cast about it to let my community know, hey, this is something that's going on. And that's the kind of thing that I focus on when I do cast. Try to have something that's educational, even if it's just game developers use light in order to guide you to the next scenario that you need to go to. Even if it feels like a maze, if you follow the light, usually that's the right way to go. All the way to the deeper things, psychologically, what is a character saying and why they're doing what they're doing.
I think it's really interesting because, you guys, do things that are just kind of outside the norm. And I think it's really smart because Twitch is always changing and it's becoming less just about video games. And more about how can you connect with your community? So being able to, educate them and have quality discussions and get to know each other on a more personal level than just hey, I'm entertaining, I play games, I'm a person and I have, we probably have these same thoughts and feelings about things. It's a really cool experience. Bluejay, how have you found Twitch and the community to, I guess, how do you connect with your community?
The thing for me is that I've never wanted to be just a broadcaster. I know that a lot of people, it's just like you said, I just want to play this game and also commentary, and that's all I need to do. But for me, I found that Twitch is more of a locus where I can use this social media that is Twitch to expand my creative endeavors and also to expand influence into other spheres. I do a lot of role play. I read books on cast. Sometimes we read Jane Eyre and Portrait of Dorian Gray, and I do coloring book streams. And what I found is that my stream is more of another way for me to reach out to my community, to have that connection with people. And a lot of my growth on Twitch has been trying to find ways to make content that lasts longer than the live stream, to affect people in ways that they don't just forget about you as soon as you stop going live. And I think that that is also a really important thing when it comes to one of the main stressors of being a full-time broadcaster is being live as often as possible, making content that exists when you're not there, that is still ongoing. And roleplay has been really good for me with that because people will come brand new to something that you've made months ago, and still be able to get that engagement with you and your content and your creative endeavors, where you don't have to be always live all the time for them to access you. Also,
sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, also being active on Twitter and Discord and the has been.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was gonna say. Is how else can you connect without being live?
Yeah, and that we're on the same same track there. The having other social medias that aren't just Twitch, being active on Twitter, responding to to people in Discord, Twitter, being active on Instagram. Of course, like one person can only manage so much in terms of social media, but you pick and choose what is both important to you and also what you have the ability to manage in terms of like emotional and like just labor. And for me, that's been like, I focus mainly on Twitter and Discord with a little bit of Instagram, which I want to focus more energy on in the future, in the coming year. And then Twitch, of course. And then a lot of people will do that with the addition of YouTube, which is another thing that is on the list of goals. But I feel like having that I'm not live, but I'm still here presence without it intruding into the every aspect of my life as it happens kind of thing, which is another concern.
Right. I think this is a really interesting point because it's something that I'm starting to realize more now too. I'm starting to be more active on Twitter, trying to just like, even if it's just like, I read Twitter all the time, but it's like I'm a lurker. Like I just kind of read everything and I don't even like or like comment too much. So I'm trying to get better at that. Not only to like, connect with my fellow streamer friends and also people that I don't know. It's also like great to engage your audience. Do you guys like, how do you guys balance all of the social medias and like how do you get yourself to not feel like you always need to be like thinking about social media? Because it's something that, I'm trying to do Instagram more too. And it's like, it can be like, very like a very stressful thing. But I guess for me, some people are pretty good at it. But what has
Wait, you're not supposed to be always thinking about social media? What?
No. Well, for me, one trick that I've done at the beginning of the year or maybe like last year or so is connect my Instagram, my Facebook page, and my Twitter all together with the if then do this application.
Oh, if it?
And if it. Yeah. And if you post something on Instagram, then it will post that post with a picture and a link to your Instagram onto your Twitter and your Facebook.
Wait, so that's how people do it?
Yeah, it's called
I've just been manually like making the tweets after I do the Instagram.
Oh, yeah.
No, there's an app that'll do it for you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can show you that. There's another one called there's another one called Hootsuite that does that, but I had a problem with it like posting my pictures upside down last TwitchCon, so I switched to TTP. Helps your apps and devices work together. You can also like connect
if this then that or something like that.
Yeah, if you connect it to your home lights, if you have smart lights, and like they can turn on a few minutes before you come home, and the same with your thermostat and all of those sort of things. There are so many applications that you can use. You can also do Twitter team management. So like if these certain people tweet out this hashtag or tweet out the word live, then retweet them. So that one's a little harder to set up, and I've had iffy results with it, but because it's like such a complicated applet to like create. But yeah, there's a lot of power in those things, and I like tech and I like sharing it. So there you go.
Right. I mean, definitely like being able to improve efficiency in your workflow is like one of the hardest things that I think being a content creator, being connected to the internet is to do, because it's just everything's so time consuming. So
another thing that I do too is make sure that I'm hitting like two birds with one stone with my content. So if I'm playing a game and it makes me research a topic, I'll write up a write-up. I'll post that on my blog. I talk about it live on my stream, and then I cut it as a highlight and upload it to my YouTube. And so all of those things like hit different people, because I know that I have followers who just follow my blog or just follow my YouTube or just my Twitch or a little bit of in between, because, I only like Twitch when it's live. So I'll catch up on your YouTube, or like, I can't listen or watch things at work, so I'd rather read it. So kind of trying to be able to like hit all those things and have multiple ways of like, hey, I'm making content, but it's the same content, just in different places.
You're just trying to hit as many like pieces of your audience as possible. I mean,
exactly.
I use YouTube. It's always been like an archive of like highlights and old VODs and stuff, because, Twitch would delete old VODs. So I was like, well, I want this playthrough up forever, so I'll just throw it on YouTube. Bluejay, do you use YouTube at all, or you said you plan on, right?
Yeah, I like you were mentioning, I used to a very long time ago just upload the whole VOD onto YouTube back when I was first starting with no breaks or anything. And I actually don't have video editing software. And that's one of the things, like when we're talking about mental health, and like this is a task that I've set for myself that I want to accomplish. Like I want to learn how to edit video. I want to have some like lightly curated VODs, like lightly edited VODs on my YouTube channel to make it like we do a coloring book stream, and I would love to take that and fast forward it, strip all the sound off of it, and just overlay a music that is copyright free, and just throw that with that light editing onto YouTube. But there's a part of me that is like, I don't know how to edit video. I don't have video editing software. With none of that knowledge, this is a big task, and I make it bigger in my head because like I don't have that knowledge. And so in terms of like trying to manage my own anxiety about that, I give myself the time to be like, okay, so this is a thing on the list. You don't have to get to it now. What are things that you can do previous to that to prepare you for that? And for me, that is like I've downloaded videos of playthroughs that I want to put on YouTube, but I haven't edited yet. So I have the video so I don't lose it and then kick myself over that. I have some of my playthroughs highlighted, and just the highlighted VOD is on Twitch. So it's broken up into pieces, and it's highlighted, and it's available for consumption, and it's not going to disappear. But I'm just trying to take those baby steps into doing what I want to do without putting too much pressure on myself.
And YouTube's kind of tricky too, because it's so like if you start from nothing, it's a lot of work for very little return. So you know, if you have mods or volunteers that are willing to help, you know, I have some mods, and I have like even like a mini officer team where they want to help the stream, but they can't really dedicate all that time to being in the stream, but they want to help out. So I have like an officer team where they will help make like cut up some highlights, and then from there it's just I just export it right to YouTube, and then you can schedule it from publication to there. So you know, being able to delegate stuff like that, that's kind of like more tedious and a lot of work and a lot of learning. It's something that like, you know, you want to kind of do everything for yourself, but you're going to just feel like you're drowning, especially like video editing is a lot of work and like really time consuming. So,
and I think
even if you just get some volunteers to help out with the easy stuff.
I think when we're talking about social media and managing that in general, like Jessy was saying, like all the different places where she can put content and everything, it can seem a little overwhelming. And that's one of the things where it's like, give yourself a break. Like, it's okay to not be Superman, you know? It's okay if you can only handle 2 social media, and that's like what you can handle. If you accept that, if you stop pressuring yourself to do more than you're doing, like I should be able to handle these 7 different social medias because Jessy can do it. So why can't I? Like, that's just like a really negative mindset to be in. And so instead being like, okay, I know that me, Bluejay, I can handle paying attention to my Twitter and paying attention to my Instagram and paying attention to my Discord. Anything more than that is a lot for me to be able to do. And then slowly like be like, okay, today I feel a little bit more capable. So I'm going to take a look at my website and see if I can edit that to make it a little easier for me to handle in the future, and allow yourself to not be like on top of everything all at once. Like take it a piece at a time.
And on social media, we're constantly seeing other people's lives and comparing ourselves. Like, even if you don't realize it, you're like, this person's been posting pictures, like they're super successful in PR, doing all these events and stuff. They look like they're doing a fantastic job. They have so many followers. And then you're like, okay, so how like I need to step my game. And it's stressful because not everyone can like I'm not great at going out and posing for pictures places, so I don't like post things on my Instagram ever.
Yeah, and I think that it's super important to self-analyze in that way, and to be like, what can I do, and accept that. Like,
Yeah.
there are some people that can handle 7 social medias with aplomb. You might not be able to do that, but like, you're also a different person than they are. And just being like cognizant of what you can handle and not beating yourself up over not being like the second best social media person of all of Twitch, you know? Like, it's you can do what you can do. And I think one of the most important things when it comes to like my personal experience managing mental health is that you recognize like you have limits. You are a human being, you're not a robot. So you can only manage what you can manage, and that comes in like every part of your life, whether it comes to like, I need to like pay more attention to managing to feed myself than maybe another human being, because that's something that I know that I have troubles with. Whereas someone else is just like, oh, whatever. Like, that's not something that they have to actually like be aware of because they're on top of that. I'm not as on top of that, and that's okay. I just need to be aware of that so that I can be better about it. Like, there are some people where the social media thing is no problem, but they are really bad about keeping a schedule. Like, Loco, you're not as good about going out and taking the pictures, but you keep a schedule like that, you know? So everyone has different different things that they excel
strengths
at.
and weaknesses. Yeah.
Exactly. And you got to be able to accept your own strengths and weaknesses and acknowledge that you have both of them, not just one or the other.
So I think that's going to go really nicely just to lead into our topic of the week. Mental health and streaming. This topic is probably like one of the most common panels that you'll see. It's something that's going to be frequently talked about because it's honestly one of the most difficult aspects of, I would say, just life in general. Like, mental health is something that's just super like not really well understood. And you know, with streaming, they're like, every job has its stressors, and streaming is definitely like, you know, no different. So how did you guys become what I would call you guys mental health advocates? Like, how did you guys like find this role in the community?
Well, for me, it wasn't something that I really started doing. I kind of started as like, oh, let me just mod for people. And then when I started casting, oh, let me just cast what I'm doing in World of Warcraft. And then eventually, as I learned more about Twitch and how to make yourself unique and an interesting broadcaster to watch, not just someone, oh, I'm just playing games. Any Joe Schmo can do that. So like, what's my unique spin on that? I found like, hey, I studied a lot of psychology and I'm not really using that in my day-to-day life. So let me put it into my Twitch hobby. And I take things that I learned from university and new research that I'm constantly doing, because I was already doing that because it's something that interests me and it's a hobby in itself. And so I just combine the two. And that's what I've been doing lately in that sense, especially in the last year or so. And I guess my reputation is starting to perceive me like, oh, Jess is like, you know, the mental health and self-care person. So that's really nice because that's what I want to be known as on Twitch and just on the internet in general and in real life, that I'm someone that understands how mental health works and different ways to make sure that you have a positive outlook on life and how to deal with the negative ebbs and flows. And it's okay not to be happy all the time, but what do you do to make sure that doesn't turn into a downward spiral and make your day-to-day life worse? So
yeah. Bluejay, what about you? How did you come into this role of being a mental health advocate?
For me, it was my own personal experience. A lot of the way that I've been guided into being more open about mental health has been through my own experiences with going to see a therapist and the like. So my stuff has been like just empathy also with my community. Like, we're pretty open with each other in Discord and the like. Like, when I ask you how's your day, I actually want to know, you know. But a lot of it has also just been my own experience and just wanting to be an influencer in the word of like, hey, like, this is an actual thing that I'm currently going through. Like, let me share my experience with you so that you don't think that you're somehow abnormal for
Yeah.
taking care of yourself.
And how has the reception been when you guys have started to speak out more openly about mental health?
I mean, for me, it's been really positive and supportive. A lot of my response has been obviously from members of my own community. And most of them have been very much like, good for you, like if you need to take a day off because of one thing or another. Also, like people being like, thanks for being open about your experience, like when I say like going to my therapist or whatever. There's been a lot of like, thank you for speaking up about this, because there's such a stigma surrounding mental health and the like. The idea that uh it's not normal, when in reality, like, most people need a hand every now and then, and like your brain is just as much a part of your body as, if you sprain an ankle, like you go get that fixed. So like if you're having problems with anxiety or social anxiety or depression, like why is that not as big a deal as breaking your leg? Because it totally is. It's the same part of you malfunctioning as like having a broken leg would be, and getting help to fix that is nothing to be negative or ashamed about. And so many people are, a lot of the times, or even if they're not vocally negative, they feel like they can't share that because
Yeah.
it somehow makes you weak to ask for help when it's concerning your brain, whereas when it's concerning your body, it's no big deal.
Yeah. I
So
think like the other problem is like, how we mentioned before with social media, it's like people tend to just show the best of themselves, and you look at everyone else and everyone's so happy, and then you're here and you're like this is how I feel, but I don't feel comfortable like putting it out there because like I don't want to be a downer, So Jessy, what about you? Like, how has your advocacy for mental health been received by, your community or just like new people that follow you now?
Yeah, it seems relatively positive for the most part. I have had a few situations where someone will say like I'm contemplating suicide, or I'm totally not okay and I just want to leave my family and leave school and my job and just go be a hermit. And that kind of case is where it goes beyond just being a helper and being a friend and like a shoulder to cry on or an ear to vent to, and to the point where a professional is needed. And I have a bunch of different resources that, like, for instance, I'm a team member of Anxiety Gaming, and they do, just very quickly, like, they help people set up with therapists that are in their area who will take their insurance and have similar outlooks on life. So like if you're a hardcore RPG gamer, they can find a therapist who understands that kind of thing. Or if you're someone who like really loves Netflix and just TV shows and just are a movie buff, they can find a therapist or an office that focuses on that as well. So when it gets to those sort of points, I have to be able to say, for my own mental health and then also my own like protection, to not get in trouble with the law for saying I can do these things when I actually can't, to be able to say, look, I'm only one person, I can only do this, and therefore you need to go and find help with a professional or something, and here's professionals and organizations that I really trust and I've used for help, or close friends and family have used for help in the past, so go
Yeah.
talk to them. And then
And we should.
eventually
Oh, go ahead.
there have been like fringe cases of someone um being really off the rails and not taking that advice and constantly badgering me in DMs or coming into my channel and saying really negative things. Eventually, you do have to, at least for me, cut off contact and say, this is overly negative to the point of you don't have a goal, you don't have a plan, you're not taking any of my advice. So I have to cut you out for not only my health but yours too. You need to go and get help. Like, it's the same with if someone's an alcoholic. Like, eventually they need to realize, yes, I need to go to rehab. You can't force those people to do it because they relapse right when they leave. And the same with someone with a broken leg. If they aren't doing their physical therapy properly, or if they aren't taking their pain medicine, they're going to make that broken leg into a chronic illness for the rest of their lives.
Yeah.
And mental health is the same way. If you don't keep on top of it, and if you don't realize, yeah, I'm having a bad day right now, or a bad week, or a bad year, and I'm in a depressive state, or I'm schizophrenic and I haven't been really keeping up with my therapy or my medicine, all sorts of mental illnesses. If you're not working towards making it better every day, then that negatively affects everyone else around them too. But for the most part, I've only had like one or two of those fringe cases, and for the most part, I feel like I handled it properly. But I'm a human and I make mistakes too, so it's possible they think I totally messed up, but it seems right from my point of view. Right for me, right for my community.
Yeah, it brings up kind of an interesting side of this topic that I didn't even think about, and it's that, like, when your viewers come to you for help when they're in a bad place, and the fringe cases that you're talking about, I've actually had to deal with that myself, where, you know, I've had viewers just become like they either have bipolar or they're like a little bit obsessed with the stream, and, like, you know, I've had my issues with people that they're like telling me that they're gonna kill themselves and stuff, and you know, as a streamer, like, you know, I can't, like, I mean, there's only so much that I can do, to the point where, you know, you need to just tell them, like, you have to just recommend professional help, because, you know, like, you don't want to be, like, you just can't, like, I guess, I don't even know, legally, you probably just can't, like, really advise them on too much. So, yeah, it's really, like, it's kind of a hard thing to deal with as a streamer, especially when you're bonded with your community. You know, people feel like they can come to you, and then, you know, you just kind of have to be like, this is wearing on me, like, you know.
Yeah,
it's the same as, like,
deal with this.
No, I think the thing there is that you have to be cognizant of, one, you are not a mental health professional. They, like, ought to know you are not a mental health professional, and you can be, like, upfront with that. And two, you are the most important person in your life. So you recognize how much you can handle, and someone else's extreme mental health issues, like, as much as you empathize, as much as you, like, have concerns for your community and other human beings, that's not your responsibility. It isn't. And, like, you might feel bad about it, and it might be really, really hard and awkward to be like, hey, you're saying some really concerning shit right here, but it's not my job.
Yeah.
Like, this is not my job. I cannot be your suicide prevention person, because that is not my job, and I do not have the tools. And, like, I just personally, like, it happens. Like, people have come into my chat, like, while I'm streaming and said stuff like that, and I'm just like, this is not the place.
So what are some quality resources that you guys would recommend that people point to when, you know, the situation happens?
Bluejay and I had some overlap, so I'll talk about the two that I brought up. One of them is Gamers Fighting Depression, and they're mostly on Reddit, but they do have a Discord and a Twitter and a group of content creators that stream and have been vetted by their community. And it's basically a support group of gamers who are also fighting depression and a few other mental health things as well. They do have, like, a repository of, if you have ADHD, if you have this problem, if you're currently going through this type of situation, these are all the different types of other organizations that we trust and we recommend that you talk to about those sort of things. And I do recommend them highly. And another one is if things are getting incredibly serious, like someone is contemplating suicide, there is the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. And if you know someone that you love who's talking about, like, being a burden or feeling trapped and they seem to be really down, and then all of a sudden everything seems fine, that's a huge warning sign of they have committed to committing suicide and they see like a light at the end of the tunnel. And that's one time that you really need to pay attention and keep homing in, like send them a DM or call them up and say like, hey,
Yeah.
how you doing? Want to do a gaming session 2 weeks from now? Do you want to come over to my house? If you can do those sort of things.
Right.
And so, but obviously that takes a lot of emotional and mental strength and effort and time to be able to realize that and try to reach out to people and help with that. And there's something called Dunbar's number, which is a social psychology theory in that even the most social butterflies can only know about 200 to 250 individuals and like a unique fact about them at once. So that includes your kindergarten teacher, and that includes the person that you get your coffee from every morning, and that includes the people who come into your chat in your community and your moderators. And then that's just like online people or just acquaintances. That also includes your family and your friends and your crushes and all of those things. So the fact that there are people who do say like, oh, my DMs are always open and I'm always free to chat with you, it's almost a misnomer for them to say that, because no one has the mental or emotional strength to be able to deal with being able to help their hundreds of thousands of followers on YouTube and Twitter and Twitch and everything. It is a good thing in the sense of being able to say, hey, I am a mental health advocate. I know that people struggle, but someone who says like, I can help each and every one of you individually, like, that's not necessarily true. And that kind of talk can also make people who are suffering feel even more alone. You would think like, oh, I'm always open, I can always chat. But if they see people constantly saying that, it makes them feel like, well, I'm not special and like we don't really have a connection and this isn't really real. So
That's
yeah, and the other two that Jessy did her research a little bit more than me. I only speak for the resources that I've actually used so far and had experience with, anxiety gaming being one of them. They actually helped me to find my therapist that I'm going to see right now. And it was such a relief because it's such a big task. And when you're already suffering from anxiety, to be like, hey, person who's never seen a therapist before, go find one that'll work for you in a city that has hundreds, and also you're broke, so good luck. But they are a resource for not just finding a therapist. I know that takes a lot of work, and they're doing that work for a fair amount of people, but also finding other people who you can vent to, which venting is like actually super important and helpful for a lot of people. Just having some output for like your emotional turmoil. And then just having someone who is a trained professional who can like be an ear at least. And then also Take This. They run the what are the break rooms at PAX?
AFK rooms, yeah.
The AFK rooms, yeah. And they are a great resource. Their website has a lot of information on it for like how to find a therapist if you can't avail yourself of the resources of something like anxiety gaming, like how to do it by yourself. They have a lot of resources for like different ways to handle that kind of stress, and their AFK rooms were a lifesaver at conventions where a lot of the like social anxiety can get to be a little like a little much. So those resources are things that I've taken advantage of that have been really helpful for me. And yeah, also just like being a part of a community. It's sometimes hard for people who are less being internet people, being nerds, like we all have, I feel like, varying degrees of like social experience, and some people are better at forming communities and forming relationships than other people. But I feel like there are so many different communities on Twitch, and just finding a place where you feel like you can talk and be yourself and be a part of something is a super valuable resource and not to be underestimated, because there are so many people that feel so isolated on the internet and in today's day and age. And just to feel that you are seen as a human being by other people is a huge thing. Like, it's actually a big deal.
I think that's like the beauty of Twitch is, you know, finding those communities and like making friends and being able to connect with people and having a place to take your mind off things too, right? So, and on the other side of the coin, being a streamer, you know, having a community is super rewarding. But, you know, there's a lot of mental hurdles and mental stresses that streaming has. And, you know, as we talked about social media, constantly feeling the need that we need to be connected and promoting ourselves. And, you know, because, you know, you are your brand as a content creator. So if people don't see you, people will forget about you, right? Like, you know, you have to have as many people see your face as possible to continue to grow. What other hurdles do you think that you face yourself as being a streamer?
For me, a lot of it is the comparison thing. I do that all the time, where you'll be like, oh, look at me, I'm sitting here on this number of sub points and I've been on this number of sub points forever, and here's 20 people that I can point at on Twitter who just achieved goals that are like twice the size of mine, and blah 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 blah. This is really depressing, I'm not going anywhere, etc. It's this negative thought spiral that happens when you can see only the things that people are making available for you to see. It's really hard because, like, a lot of the times what people put out onto the internet is not a whole picture. You're not getting all of it. You don't see the amount of work that was behind a goal being accomplished. You don't see the amount of like stress and strain that they're facing in other aspects of their life that you have on lock and totally handled. All you see are like one tweet that 700 people liked that said they got 1,000 sub points in one night, and you're just like, I'm never gonna do that. And so that false comparison is really hard to get over, because it's so much easier to look at something you don't have and make yourself feel shitty about it than it is to recognize the things that you do have and tell yourself like, hey, I have this many people that support me, and that's so great. Like, that's like, I am a full-time broadcaster. I make a living doing this as a job, and there are so many people that can't say that, right? So there's a really good thing, but you keep focusing on all of this social media of other people doing better, quote unquote, because it's not actually the case. They're doing differently than you. But one of the really big things, I think, is to recognize that negative thought cycle and to get that logical backing where it's like you see the thing and you think the thought. It's not trying to tell yourself not to think these bad thoughts, because that's like, you're a human being, like, it'll happen. But instead of just letting that run like circles around you until you're super depressed, seeing yourself think that negative thought, seeing that negative thought cycle start, and stopping it with whatever tools you have, like that logical assumption of, yes, this person has accomplished a goal. That's really awesome and good for them. This should be like inspiration for you to be able to go harder after your own goals, or to be like, yes, we didn't hit this sub goal, like recognizing this negative thought, but look at all this cool stuff that I do have that hasn't gone away. It doesn't not exist. Or one of the things that my therapist has told me is like, if you have like a negative thing, like what advice would you give to someone else that was coming to you with that problem? Because like I am a person who does a lot of advice giving, but has a hard time taking it. And so that's one of the things that I think is super important, is to like take that step outside of yourself and be like, hey, if one of your friends is like, this is a really big thing. Like we're all more protective of our friends than we are of ourselves. Like if one of your friends came to you and says like, I'm looking at this thing and I'm just having all these negative thoughts and I don't think I'm going to get anywhere and I'm just blah, 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 blah. What would you say to them? And then like internalize that, because that's what you're doing, you know? And so I think that's like, in terms of like social media as a streamer, like that false comparison is huge. And stopping that negative thought cycle is like really important.
Yeah. And it's not even just, just on Twitch itself. It's like comparing, viewer counts, sub counts, follower counts. Like, if they're streaming at the same time as you, the same game as you. Viewer count is something that not even comparing, but just looking at your own viewer count can be a huge stressor to a lot of streamers. And I don't know any streamer that has never been stressed about their numbers. Like people say that they're not, but everyone's been there at least at some point, if not still stuck there today. I think for me, from my experience, Twitch added the ability to hide your viewer count and your dashboard. I do that 99% of the time. I never look at my viewer count anymore. I just kind of focus on my show, focus on having a good time. Whether I have, 200 viewers or 1,000 viewers, I want me to be the same, because it's like, even if I'm doing better than I normally do, I still find that the numbers are affecting me, because then I'm like nervous. I'm like, okay, like, holy crap, like I gotta take advantage of this. So, for those that are constantly staring at their viewer count and just focusing on it, just turn it off. Don't look at it. Especially like you're like hyper focused on like having like, let's say you have like 2 to 3 viewers and that number ticks up to 4 or it ticks down to 3. Like that little fluctuation is something that just is natural. It's so natural to like, you're constantly losing and gaining viewers all the time. When you have a smaller number of viewers, then it feels more significant, right? It's like, I had 10 people, now I have 9. Like, what's happening? What's changed? You think the world was about to end, but really, someone didn't like it. Someone had to go. Someone apparently now, like, if you mute the stream, it doesn't count. So, I mean, just turn it off and focus on your content.
And I think one of the more important things there is to realize that there are a lot of like, there's things that are in your control about your content and your numbers, and there's a lot of things that are out of your control. Like you say, my sub count is at this and I wish it were at that. Well, the majority of the things affecting that are things you cannot control. Like
Right.
I can't control my viewers' Christmas shopping budget. That's not something I have any say over. And there's an amount that you can be cognizant of, like, this is this time of year and this thing that is out of my control is happening. And there's the amount that you can't. And just acknowledging that some amount of your perceived success is something you cannot affect.
You can't like stop someone from leaving. You can't force someone to watch your stream.
Exactly. And so some of that, like, take that stress off of yourself, because you cannot control 100% of your own like viewer numbers or sub count or like whatever social media reach. That's out of your hands. You can do what you can and then just be like, all right, I did as much as I can. And the rest of it is not like reflected on me as a flaw. Right? Don't beat yourself up over everything, because you can't possibly have your hands in all of these pies. Like I can't make my viewer who just lost their job go get another job so that they can still sub to me. Like that's not something that I can control. You know?
And so instead of like focusing on like the number of viewers, instead change that focus into, okay, how's my content? How's my stream? Watch your own stream, watch your VODs. How can you improve? Like, how are you as engaged as you could be? Are you planning events? Do you feel like you need to spice things up a little bit? Kind of like, if you're not happy with your viewer count, like take that and then focus it onto
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing, and not like don't keep doing the same thing and then just look over and then be like, oh my god, I lost viewers, like what did I
what can
what did
I
I
do
say,
to affect
like
a change here? Yeah.
right.
Yeah, I think one really good way of doing that is presentness and being meditative on what's going on currently. So it's easy to get into this negative spiral of like, oh, my sub count is dropping, or someone else that started streaming at the same time as me is a partner. Like Bluejay started later than me and she rated me, and then like a few months later she got partnered, and a few months later she has hundreds of subs and everything, and it's like, well, what's wrong with me? Why am I not doing this? And that comparison can sometimes be healthy when you see like, well, she actually has a schedule and she focuses on making sure that she's live at the time that she says she does, and she's put a lot of work into it for weeks and weeks and months. And I haven't done that because for me, I'd rather focus on certain other aspects of my life, and I have to be happy that that is what I have chosen, because you will choose to put focus on things that are important to you, even if you don't subconsciously realize it. And you might not know it's important to you, because there's this Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and you might have seen it. It's like pyramid. Yeah, I saw the word, I just couldn't say it. And so there's 5 total tiers, and the bottom 2 tiers are your foundation. They're the biggest ones. You have physiological needs, your homeostasis, basically making sure that you have enough food, water, and rest within you. And then the next one up is security and safety, making sure that you are secure in your income, or you have a house and a roof over your head, and you have emergency savings. And then the next one up is having psychological needs fulfilled. So that's having a sense of belonging. So like having a Twitch community outside of your own that you're like, if I never streamed, this is what I would like, this is where I would hang out all the time or something. Or maybe you're a churchgoer, or maybe you're really into gardening and you joined like a gardening group or something like that. Or you're a constant lifetime learner, and you like either reading stuff on the internet or auditing classes at your community college. And then eventually that builds into your self-esteem and your ability to have a feeling of accomplishment when you do finish your goals, or at least attempt them. And it's okay to fail at them, but you feel accomplished that you attempted it in the first place. And then finally at the top is self-actualization. And that's when you feel like you have achieved your full potential and you've done everything at the bottom, like from the bottom to the top of the pyramid. And now you can focus on doing creative outlets. And that's where Twitch lies. It's a high level mental thing that you are supposed to only be able to do once all of your psychological and physiological needs are fulfilled. So if you're not eating correctly and you go and stream and you feel lethargic, or you feel like you're not on top of your game with your commentary, or you're lashing out at your viewers when they're doing the same jokes that you allowed a few weeks ago. So like trying to find that balance and realizing that that's something that you need to not only apply to when you stream, but also how you look at social media and how you interact with your IRL friends and family and so on and so forth.
I mean, that's a good point. Like with streamers, I would say that pyramid is either upside down or just completely shattered in pieces, because work-life balance for streamers is something that very few people have actually figured out. It's a constant struggle. Trying to stream all the time to work, then you work on the stream, and then you're on social media, and we don't take vacations, we don't get vacations, you have to choose to take a vacation on your own time. And when you do that, you feel like you're going to lose all your viewers and followers and subscribers, and you're not earning an income, you don't have a stable paycheck. These are all things that full-time streamers have to think about, and it's a very daunting thing. You guys have any tips for trying to maintain a work-life balance?
For me, it comes down to breaking things down into manageable steps. because there's a lot of times where I'll like make myself feel bad because I didn't accomplish a task, like a work related task, or I wasn't live for as many days as I wanted to be this week or whatever. And it comes down to recognizing like each small thing that you do each day to support yourself and your mental health and your like physical well-being, and being like, I actually accomplished a fair bit today, or I'm asking too much of myself. Um, so one of the things that I think is something that people need to spend more time doing is acknowledging the little things that you do every single day to keep yourself running, and like being like, okay, like I did all of this today. I got myself breakfast. I didn't skip lunch. I cut up these VODs after my stream. I read a chapter out of this book. And also, like in that vein, like self-care is super important, not just thinking that your stress relief has to be one giant vacation in the middle of the summer, or like a whole week off or something. The idea that you can take little breaks from work every day, or like once a week, and not be straining yourself so much in terms of like, I have to find this giant pocket of time to de-stress myself, and the rest of the time I have to be go 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 go. Breaking that down and being like, okay, so I work hard every single day, how about I take an hour also every day and work on self-care? And that can be different from everybody. Like for someone it's a bubble bath, for somebody else it's taking a chapter, like reading a chapter of a book that you wanted to read that you've been putting off for 7 months. For somebody else it's binging 3 episodes of an anime. For other people it's like writing in a journal, or talking with a friend or a family member. Just the idea that you set aside time. Don't let yourself skip it. Don't mark it as a luxury, but set aside time where you're like, this is time where I'm going to do something that's not working. This is time where I'm not gonna say that this is like, you know how in RimWorld where people have tasks that are marked 1, 2, 3, or 4, like this luxury time is not marked 4. You don't get to just skip it if you find something more important. Like this is your like you need to do this. And I think that that's like something
one day off a week is like
not, and you don't even have to take a whole day off. Like that could be such a pressure for streamers, thinking that like, how am I going to find the time to take an entire day off when like people are telling me I need to do this for my mental health?
But then it's also like most people have 2 days off a week, and if you're,
yeah, but the difference between that is that being a streamer is being an entrepreneur. And so it's really good to look at how entrepreneurs and startup cultures work on how they have the crunch and how they deal with, it's okay for me to work 7 days a week and work 7 hours total, not just like streaming 7 hours. Maybe you stream for 4 hours and then 3 hours you work on your social media and updating your website and like picking the games that you're going to do for the rest of the year and everything. If you're a full-time broadcaster and this is something that you're wanting to do, you will have to sacrifice certain luxuries of having only a 40-hour work week, or only and having a whole weekend off, and having 14 vacation days and 5 sick days built into your job contract, because you are your boss and your IT administrator and your PR person. And if you are like, if you some people, it doesn't matter what size you are. There are some people who are like, I have a community manager and they make sure that I do certain things, or I have a team of like an agency that helps me do these sort of things too. But for the most people, they don't really have that luxury, or they don't realize that that's something that they should try to work towards. And so like what Bluejay said, if you make a schedule for your stream, you should also make a schedule for yourself. And that goes for people who aren't streamers at all either, or maybe they're just a moderator or just a lurker, or they're not involved in Twitch at all. It's good to schedule like, okay, I want to be more fit or more athletic. You can promise yourself over and over, I'm going to go to the gym, I'm going to do it. But if you don't put it into your schedule, like literally put it in Google Calendar and have it alert you 30 minutes before, like I need to drive to the gym or something, you're not going to do it. And eventually it does become a habit and a routine. And then eventually you won't need those reminders because it becomes a part of you and you start to want to do it for yourself. So that's also why it's difficult for some streamers if they're used to streaming 5 days a week, 7 days a week or something. And then someone says, oh, just take a day off, take a weekend off. That's what, normal like employees do or something, when they realize like, oh, I took my Saturday morning off, but like, I feel good, I should stream or something. And then they get stuck in this idea of, well, no, I promised that I wouldn't stream on this day. Well, it's okay to like have off days of like surprise stream or something.
Mm-hmm.
So trying to find that balance, you can give all this advice and everything, but it really just comes down to what one person can handle. And that's why also comparing yourself to other streamers who are either part-time or full-time, or they've been around forever, or they just started and they have all this success and everything, is very unhealthy, because their journey is never going to be yours, no matter how similar you've started off together, or how similar the games you pick, or your schedule, or where you live, or how you grew up or something, because you are your own unique person. You need to find what works best for you. And that will take failure, and that will take attempt after attempt. And eventually you will find an equilibrium and a balance. And some people find it faster than others. For me, I know for a fact that I could never be a full-time streamer, just for the simple fact of I need to be secure in the income that I get, because I grew up incredibly poor. So it's like being able to know that like, oh, I have an emergency fund and I have healthcare and all of these things is more important to me than having the freedom of being my own boss as a full-time caster. And I do miss it. I did it for a few months and stuff last year, but the stress of, oh my God, my savings are dwindling. Oh my God, I don't have health insurance. Oh my God, like my big donors, my big whales, they aren't really donating anymore because Christmas is coming up. Like, what am I going to do? And so I realized I needed to step back and I needed to not do this full time anymore. And that's my story and that's my journey and that's what works for me. And like, yeah, I could give that advice out to other people, but that doesn't mean that once they do that and they do it for like 6 months or a year, they won't be fulfilled as I am, because it's not what they need in their life.
And the financial side, sorry, Blue, I'll let you go in just a sec, but I just want to say like the financial side is like a whole nother stress. And I know someone else that I spoke to at one point, and they were looking for like an actual job because they're like, I don't like this lifestyle of paycheck to paycheck. It's, you're depending on tips, which is completely optional. Like, people can watch hundreds of hours of content for free. They don't have to pay a dime. It's totally like up to the viewers' generosity if they want to support you as your job. That's just like that's a horrible feeling in a lot of ways, because it's like you don't know like what you're gonna make month to month, and then you're like, I mean, it just feels like, to me, it just feels like a weird situation where it's like, oh, like people are donating money, and I'm like, okay, like thank you, I can eat now. Like, it's kind of like a weird thing. So yeah, I mean, if the financial side and the health insurance thing too, so you don't get health insurance, like I said, you don't get vacation time, like you are your own boss, and that doesn't work for a lot of people. So if you find that like that whole like the money side, if that doesn't appeal to you, Twitch doesn't have to be like end all be all, and it's something that we talk about on the show regularly, where like there are other opportunities in this industry. Like, you can stream for fun but still be a part of Twitch in some other capacity. Like, Jessy, you used to do PR and stuff. So there's other options. Like, you don't have to see this as like
there are
you
so
don't
many
have
different
anywhere
things.
to go.
Right. Yeah. You can start off as a moderator, then become a community manager, and then either get into influencer relations management or become a marketing manager for a video game or a developer, or you can develop your own games, or you can become a producer for a studio that is making games. You can become a programmer. You can do all sorts of things within the video game industry and still be attached to Twitch in your own way. And I think that's something that not only do people who are trying to get into Twitch need to realize, that like streaming isn't the only way that you can play games and like do good things and have fun. But I also think that people who have been doing this full time for a while need to diversify and realize that the skill set that you have built up as being a broadcaster are things, if you know how to sell it well on a resume and during an interview, you can get a lot of different jobs in a lot of different industries. It doesn't have to be gaming related. You can work for an ad tech firm as their marketing manager, or because you coded your bot or a Twitch extension or something, you can get into coding for advertisements and things like that. And that's a whole nother field of play that you're opening up for yourself. And you should think about that 5 to 10 year plan future, because Twitch isn't going to be around forever. Either there's going to be another competitor that eats up the pie, or Twitch just stops and like ends it like Justin TV, and then they don't have a replacement for it. And it's all well and good to like think, oh, I could be a YouTuber forever. YouTube has been around for a while, but you never know if like someone bigger and newer comes along and like does what you do but better.
Yeah.
And then
or the
what are
problems
you
with
going
like
to
the
do
ad
about that?
revenue too.
Yeah, exactly. I
Where
know so
a lot
many
of full-time
YouTubers
YouTubers are
switching to Twitch, or they're like,
Right.
well, I need to get out of this, or like, well, let me work on this game that I've been trying to develop for 10 years now, and maybe I can make revenue off of that. So
I think circling back to work-life balance, I really want to go back to the idea of taking breaks and having time. And we belittled a little bit, I think, the idea of taking time off. And I want to circle back to that, in so much as like, I think the thing that I was trying to say is not don't take time off, or not like you don't need a whole day. It's that you need to be cognizant of what you as a person need, and give yourself the time when and as you need it, and not always force yourself like, this is the one day a week that I'm going to take off. Because what if you need time off like before that? Or what if, like, I do role playing shows 2 days a week back to back for 4 hours, and a lot of the times that's all I'll do that day. And that for me is a good day off, because the role playing show I'm not producing, I just get to have this creative outlet, and it's not a stressor for me in the way that running my own show is. So that is a comfortable day off for me to have. Whereas for somebody else who maybe was producing the show, maybe is jamming for it and prepping for it, that might be a day that they can't consider a day off because they're working really hard there. Another thing for me is that I don't take a day off every single week, but I have every 2 or 3 weeks, I take a whole weekend off. And that's something that I do and that I plan for. And I know that's going to happen. And so that is a comfortable way for me to schedule my life and my time. But I also am like, that's me as a person. And someone else might be like cognizant of the fact that like, I know that I'm going to push myself too hard. I know that I need to commit to having a day off every single week, or else I'm just not going to take time off. And so I definitely think that the idea of like, this is how all entrepreneurs do it, and so I should be comfortable with that, is one of the, like, it's a false comparison again. Like, you have to see what you're comfortable with. And a lot of that is taking like try something out. Like, see how it works. Be aware of like what your mind and your body is doing. Like, be aware of if you're skipping time taking care of yourself. Like, I don't stream as early in the mornings because I know that I won't wake up early. I know that if I don't eat before stream, that I'll just not eat for a large portion of the day. And so I take the mornings off so that I can make sure that I take care of myself and my body. And that's an important thing for me. Whereas for someone else, waking up for them might be a lot easier. And so they could start stream a lot earlier and be comfortable with that. I think that it's really important in all of this mental health stuff to make sure that you do take advice from people who might have experience, but also like, not everything's going to suit you.
Right.
Everyone deals with things differently, and to try and be very cognizant of that. And I think that a lot of people, like Jessy was saying, looking forward 5 to 10 years, might get really stressed out about that and be like, oh shit, like this isn't going to last forever. I need to find something else. I need to develop valuable skills. Like I'm not doing enough. And like put a pause on that. Put the kibosh on that like stress, because like there is an amount of being prepared, like having savings and being like realistic about things, but there's also an amount of borrowing tomorrow's problems. So there is one thing to be like, okay, like Jessy was saying, like there are skills I'm developing as a broadcaster that can lend themselves to future careers, but I don't have to necessarily worry about like sending my resume out to a bunch of companies right this second, because maybe right now Twitch is working for me and I'm doing well. And you can have that realistic notion of like, this isn't going to be my entire life. I'm not going to be 60 years old and be a streamer. But also not stress yourself out about it so much. Like be realistic, know that you're developing skills, and maybe spend a little extra actually like cognizant time, like keeping track of those and maybe trying to develop them more. But don't necessarily be like, this thing that I'm doing isn't always going to work, and so I have to prepare right now for when that breaks.
That builds into anxiety and over worrying if you do focus on something like that. And that's why it's so important to keep mindful and on the present. And that's something that a lot of people do have an issue with, because it's like, oh, so-and-so texted me and they haven't gotten back to me, so therefore this and this and all these bad things are happening. Well, just be in the present. I replied to them and they will get to me when they can, and so on. And then you can extrapolate that out to heavier topics such as Twitch. Like you don't have to focus like, oh my God, a year from now, I want to hit my sub goal of like 1,000 subs or something, or sub points. Well, that's great. But if you don't have weekly goals of like, well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually have a schedule. I'm going to focus on games that I know that my community likes, or they have suggested that I get into role playing, or they suggested that I do more creative and building casts. So like if I do those things, I can also reach another audience, and then my current viewers will still show up because they find it interesting, because they have requested those sort of things. And then before you know it, you have 52 weeks of content technically like all planned out. And it's okay if like, you know, half of those weeks don't really turn out, but you have a plan and a goal, and then you take it 1 week at a time, 1 day at a time, 1 hour at a time.
I really like that. Like, don't just set goals, but create a plan for those goals. And that way you can like track your progress versus just like, oh, I want 1,000 subs. Okay. All right, let's make it happen. You know, like, okay.
Yeah, you know, break it down.
Have an idea of what you want to do. Yeah, and going back to the breaks thing, I think Jessy mentioned wanting to talk about this, but breaks. First of all, don't be afraid to take a break. Like end the stream early or miss a scheduled day off because your head's not in it. Your viewers will be able to tell if you're feeling off, and it might do more harm than good if you're forcing yourself, both to your mental health and just to your stream. It could just even hurt your stream, where viewers are like, oh, okay, I don't feel like watching it today, you know? So don't feel bad about like ending a little bit early if you're not having a good time or you're just kind of not feeling it today. Just take that day. And real world experiences can really help re-energize your stream too. You know, when I go to conventions or like, you know, I go out and do stuff and I have these experiences, this is something that I can bring back to the stream and talk about. Now I have new things to talk about. Like yesterday I saw Star Wars, so now I can talk, not say any spoilers, but I could say, hey guys, I saw this, I liked it. Like, you know, so you know, taking a day off can actually be like a big benefit to your stream coming back.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea, not only just for your health, like, oh, let me take a few days off, find what works for you. Some people are like workaholics and it works for them and they will not burn out until like years down the line or something. And they're like, yeah, I could stream 7 days a week or so. And then, but I take the mornings off and I just chill on my porch with my coffee and my cats and catch up on news, or, you know, find interesting things that I could talk about in the gaming sphere while I'm on my cast. So like, it's not just, you can like sort of work, but also have downtime as well too. And it really just depends on what works for you as a person. And then also with the negativity, like you were talking about how sometimes your community can definitely tell when you're a little bit more irritated and you lash out, or like you're not really commentating and you're just kind of letting the game be the cast or so. It's good to take a break, take the day off, just be like, yeah, I tried casting, I can't do it, let's host someone really quick. Or realize like maybe I'm in a funky mood because I haven't cleaned my living room in like 4 weeks, or I haven't showered in a few days. And like those are just things that if you're not taking care of your basic physiological or psychological needs, that they bleed into your creative outlets. So you need to try to keep a balance, and subconsciously your body and your mind will tell you, hey, things are wrong, I'm burning out, or I can't do this anymore. And being able to sit down, make a list of like, okay, I am feeling angry, I am feeling depressed, I am feeling frustrated. And then eventually sussing out, oh, I'm feeling this way because I had a really shitty conversation with my mom last week on the phone and we never resolved it. So, all right, let me take a few hours, let me call her back and say like, hey, let's try this conversation again. Or like, hey, this is obviously a hot topic for us, so let's not talk about this anymore. And just being able to keep your real life in balance makes you a better caster in the end too, because you can bring in new things like, hey, I saw this movie, or I read this cool article, or I'm going to the gym now and now we can talk about like our gym routines together. And then you could bring in new people who were lurkers and they're like, oh my god, I love the gym, or oh my god, I love this anime and I'm so glad I found someone else who likes it too. So
I think a really important thing here is to acknowledge that, yes, a lot of times like taking a break and going out into the real world, going AFK can do good things for your stream. But I feel like focusing too much on like, I'm going out to see Star Wars because I want to bring that back to my stream, or I'm taking this time off and I'm going to vlog all of it. I think it's really important.
It's not real time off.
Yeah, I think it's really important to recognize that some of the things that you do to benefit yourself as a human being will also benefit your stream, but that's not necessarily why you're doing it. And I also think it's very important to have anything that you do that is completely disconnected from your stressors. One of your stressors being streaming and broadcasting. To have like a friend group, if you have one, that you're not bringing your streaming stresses into, to have a hobby that you're not immediately reincorporating back into your business, to have any kind of thing that like anything, like even if it's Animal Crossing Pocket Camp, I don't care, to have something that you do that isn't bringing other stressors with it, or that you're not bringing other stressors into. It's a valuable thing to have, to be able to shut all that other stuff out for just a minute. And like, yeah, like Netflix binging. Like, I don't binge Netflix so that I can come back into my stream and be like, all right, guys, I watched all of the Defenders and now I can use that to make my content better. Like,
no, but it's just a nice like little positive like
yeah,
thing
but
that comes with it,
Yeah, but like I feel like it's super, super important to have something that you aren't bringing your stress into, or that isn't creating stress by itself. Just one thing, and it doesn't have to be huge. Like for me, I do coloring books on stream, so that's like a work thing, but for a lot of people that can be their thing. Like this is my thing that I'm not like bringing my stressors into, that I do to just zone out. For some people that's like listening to music, like they put on headphones, go for a walk, and that's it. That's not for business, that's not for work, that's them. For some people it's like a specific group of friends that's not work friends and it's not school friends, it's just their friends, and they can make that their like no stress zone. It depends on what kind of person you are. Like for me, a lot of times it's books. Like I read books for myself, and I don't necessarily come back to my stream and say like, I read this book and here's all the things I have to say about that. I'm just reading it because I want to.
Right.
And that helps me to stop thinking about like all the other bullshit that is stressing me out. I am able to like shut things down at that point and have that like place where I don't feel super, super stressed. And that can also be another thing, like when it comes down to like setting aside time, like knowing what things that you can do that, like if I'm having a really shitty day, where is the place that I can go? Being cognizant of those things to manage like anxiety or depression, and be like, okay, so when I'm really depressed, I know that I tend to do this thing. And like when I'm really depressed, I know that these things have helped, and keeping track of that so that when you get to that place where you can't make logically sound decisions because you're really anxious or you're having an anxiety attack or you're really stressed out, you can go back to that list and be like, okay, last time this was happening, this helped me. So let me find that again. Last time I was really depressed, I did this thing and it helped to bring me back out of it. And keeping track of those things like in an actual physical way, as opposed to just being like, I feel really shitty and I don't know what to do, and letting that get worse and worse. Yeah.
So we'll get into a Q&A segment here. So if you guys have any questions about streaming and mental health, or anything like that that you guys want to ask us, feel free to shoot your questions in the chat and we'll try to answer as many as possible. We already have a question, actually. As someone with anxiety, I know what helps me calm me down from an attack. What are some things that help you calm down from anxiety panic attack?
For me, one of the things that I have to do is to make sure that I'm not in a place where I can get distracted by my own negative thoughts. And so, like, as an example, having a bath can help me a lot of the times to relax and de-stress. But there was one instance where I did that when I was feeling really bad, and I didn't give myself a book to read or a podcast to listen to. And so I ended up just feeling worse afterward. So that helped me to separate that, yes, a bath helps, but what's really helping me here is to be in that relaxing situation and have something that can distract me from those negative thoughts, like a podcast or a book, where like that for me absorbs a lot of attention. So having something that will absorb that attention for me. And also, I carry a lot of stress in my shoulders. So getting a massage can sometimes really help for me.
What about you, Jessy?
Oh yeah, panic attacks and anxiety attacks are things that I don't get often, but it's usually my mind's way of saying, hey, you've been ignoring really important stuff. You haven't gotten back to a friend, or you haven't been doing projects at work like you're supposed to, and the deadline's coming up. So because I do have a lot of experience, a decent amount of experience in doing therapy and being a therapist, like it's something that I have self-treated and cared for with myself, so I could feel it coming on. I could feel my heart rate going up, and like I have a Fitbit now, so it tells me like, you know, right now I'm at 80, which is normal because you're on a stream and you want to make sure that you're presenting yourself well, and you're a little bit stressed out about it. Usually my resting's at 60, so like I can feel it when like it beeps at me and it's like, oh, you hit 100. I'm like, oh, I you know, all the shitty things that I've been feeling today and how I've been sad and angry and frustrated and lost all at the same time is definitely an anxiety or a panic attack coming on. So being able to get myself away from like a stress or a trigger, sometimes that happens when I watch certain scenes in movies or TV shows and I'm not told beforehand, like, hey, this kind of violent situation is going to come up. So like I just have to pause it and just walk around the house a little bit, like get a drink of water. That's what I do for my panic attacks, and just doing breathing exercises. My Fitbit comes with like a relaxation breathing thing, so you can like switch to that and focus on the circle getting bigger and then smaller and do your breathing exercise like that. So those are physical ways of me being able to get through it when they do happen. And then preventing them in the first place is making sure that when I have a to-do list that I make at the beginning of the week, either Sunday night or Monday morning when I get into the office, say, these are the emails that I need to focus on. These are the tickets that I need to reply to. These are the people who come up to me and say, hey, I need help with this, but whenever you have time. Well, if I do whenever I have time, since I am socially anxious, I'm just never going to do it. So working towards that and getting better at that, and just actually doing things has reduced that anxiety, and therefore it's reduced my anxiety attacks and such. So like I remember 3 years ago when I was working in IT, I would psych myself up all week to be able to call the printing vendor to say, hey, we're out of ink and therefore we need a new stock. And they always say, yep. And then they show up the next morning and they do it. There's never a problem. But like for some reason in that job, it stressed me out so much. And now I'm on calls and teleconferencing and stuff like almost every day for this job. And being able to realize like, oh, I have gotten better. I might not be perfect, but like I could do phone calls now. I might not be able to call a doctor myself without like psyching myself up for like a few days, but it's better than when I was a young adult in like my early 20s and I just wouldn't call at all. If they didn't have an email or if I couldn't like walk by really quick and it was a part of like my walking routine to and from work, then I wouldn't go. And those kind of things have also helped me when I do have anxiety and panic attacks. Like, oh, I've had this so much worse. It's okay. I'm going to get through this. It just feels really weird right now. Oh, okay. I'm better now. And that's how I deal with them personally.
I really like the points that you made. I don't really have much experience with like panic attacks, but dealing with like stress and anxiety, making lists is like super helpful. Like there's just a lot of times where I have so much going on, and I just sit here and I don't do anything. I'm just like staring at Twitter. Like I'm like, I feel terrible, but I just don't even know where to start. Like listing out what I have to do really helps me visualize like, okay, like, absolutely, like, you know, help you realize what you have going on and being able to cross things out and make that list shorter as you just start knocking things out. Making a list has definitely really helped. And also looking back and seeing the progress that you've made. You know, for me, public speaking is not something I'm comfortable with, which is kind of weird because I stream, but it's different when you're, you know, in person. And at TwitchCon, I participated in 2 panels and I was on like stage for a couple of things. And I just kind of like signed up for these things, not thinking about it until like it was getting closer and realizing like what I'm going to do and, getting through it and having a great experience, having a positive experience come out of it. Although I was a nervous wreck during it, you know, being able to say that I did this, like I spoke in public, I did fine, I did well and had good feedback. And you know, it gives me confidence going forward, and hopefully, you know, next time I won't be as stressed out. So I really like those points that you made there.
And just a really quick thing about social anxiety. The number one thing that therapists will tell people to do is to do things that scare you. And eventually you'll realize that you are getting better at them, because it's basically this primal instinct in us where we feel like, oh, there's an attack and I need to protect myself. And it's the fight or flight syndrome. And a lot of people flight when it comes to social anxiety, and they over worry and they over stress about things. And when you eventually say to yourself, it's okay if I fail at it, at least I tried. And that's better than what I did the last time this opportunity came up. And then you realize, oh, I didn't fail. I watched the VOD and maybe I could have been a little bit better at this and this. Okay, I'll do that better next time. And then you do it and then you keep doing it. I'm sure like you can remember some of your first streams, you were like, oh, do I have to turn on a webcam? Do I have to talk into the microphone? Like, right. Do I have to commentate over the game? And then now it's something, most days it's natural. And it's like, yeah, bam, I'm so good at this. So being able to realize I've done this before in something else. Therefore, I'm going to apply the skill set that I have and put it to something else and realize, oh, these little parts work well for this. And this one I have to tweak. And this one, oh, I can't do at all when it comes to like hosting something or talking in front of a bunch of people physically. And eventually you figure it out and you get better at it. So,
yeah. Next question. How do you prevent yourself from tilting from stupid things in chat? Mental health during stream. Do you just take a break?
One of the things for me is that it just gets better over time. The more that you have experience with trolls and like spoilers and just chat stuff happening, the better you get at handling it. Having moderators is a good thing. Someone else can handle it for you. Another thing is just like ignoring it. If it's something that is a trigger for you, there are blacklist words for that. If it's something that's just annoying, just don't give them the attention they're asking for. If it's something that is genuinely not okay, like actually addressing it and not just ignoring it and letting it go on, because a lot of people feel like if they say anything negative or if they stop their stream to address something and someone comes in right at that moment, that it's showing you as in a negative light. But I think that it's better to address things, even like as a broadcaster, if they keep coming up, and be like, okay, so you in chat just threatened to kill yourself. Do you think that's okay? Like, do you think that this is really the place where like you should bring this? Are you asking for attention? You're belittling people who are actually actually need help. I'm not a therapist. Or for someone that comes in and is just being like a little annoying, but not quite enough to get the ban hammer right away, and being like, okay, like you wanted my attention. Like, what's up? Like, I'm gonna just like, yeah, okay. Like, is this what you wanted? Genuinely? A lot of the things for me is like I'll try and make a joke out of it if it's someone who's just being a troll, and sometimes they immediately like just back off because they just wanted to see how you would react. But if you're actually becoming upset, recognize that this is your space and not theirs, and they can get the fuck out.
Yeah. It is a dictatorship. You are the master and commander of your stream. And sure, you can have mods and bots that help assist with that. But if you see something you don't like, you can ban it right away. And no one should be able to question you about that at all. Well, you allowed that before. Well, I'm not allowing it now. And I don't want to allow it now. Or, well, you never used to allow that. Well, I'm okay with it now. So it's okay. Obviously, that can really confuse your mods sometimes. And then obviously community members, because they're like, oh, what's going on? But in the end, this is your brand. This is your company. This is your community. And therefore, whatever you choose to be acceptable is acceptable right at that moment.
Right. And freedom of speech is not a thing that applies.
No, that just protects you from the government, not from other people.
You don't have to let people and trolls run you over. And especially if you're a smaller streamer and you don't have very many viewers talking and someone comes in and they're not being very nice, don't feel like you have to deal with that just because you don't want to lose them. Don't be afraid to form your community how you want it, because it's entirely up to you and the mods to shape your community.
I personally think when I do like stream consulting for people or just giving out general advice, I'd rather have a group of 25 people that I genuinely enjoy their interactions and their questions and their silly comments on how I do in the game versus 100 people who are super toxic. And that's how I like to run my channel. I'm not looking to be like the biggest next thing on Twitch or anything like that. I'm not looking to be partnered. I'm not looking to do any sort of thing like that. I just want to have a fun community where I can share a game either is brand new or one of my favorites. And if you want to come along with the ride and be respectful to myself and everyone else in the channel, you're completely welcome. If you don't want to do that, then you get ban hammered. It's that easy.
And your limits should be oh, go ahead.
Oh, a phrase that's really helpful is "we don't do that here."
Yeah.
Because it can sometimes be really hard to explain to somebody why something's not okay. And that's just like very succinct and just like, hey, you want to say this word? Well, we don't use that here. And that's it.
Yeah.
I don't have to explain myself any more than that. And that can be really useful when it comes to trying to be succinct and clear and deal with trolls or people who are harassing. Just be like, we don't do that here. We don't use that word here. We don't use that emote here, loco. So that's just how things are.
Yeah, and your tolerance of trolls, like that just depends on you and how you like. If you want to address the trolls, fine. If you want to ignore them, do that. What I like to do is, I think I've mentioned this before, Better Twitch TV has a setting that allows you to like hide deleted messages. So like when the mods are banning stuff or purging things, like I don't even see the message deleted thing that still appears sometimes in Twitch chat. So it's like I don't even see the trolls. I don't address the trolls. They don't exist. And you do get a thicker skin as you go on too. Like it's not that they bother me anymore. It's just more about like I don't want to give them any attention because that's just all
you realize eventually it's not really actually personal. It's just someone who is bored and they're looking for attention, even if it's negative. Yeah. So it's not like, when I first started, it kind of hurt when people said, oh, you're chubby or whatever. And now like, I know, I might be a little chubby, but I also know that I'm super fit because I've been going to the gym a lot. And I know that I'm attractive to some people and not attractive to others. And I'm okay with that because I have the self-confidence that streaming has helped build up in me. And so when someone comes by and says like, stop eating so much, it's like, well, I have to eat to survive. So like, whatever, just ban them. Don't even like interact with that at all because it's not worth it. Because I've seen the exact same names go into another channel and say, eat a sandwich, skinny person, or whatever, so it's like they're just looking for attention. They're just trying to be a troll. It's never actually personal.
Yeah.
And so once you realize that, your skin gets a lot thicker and you're able to deal with trolls a lot faster.
Yeah, and trolls like to pick on smaller channels too because
you're
likely not used to the situation. You're likely going to react. You're very likely going to see the message because there's not many people talking. So yeah, I mean, my best advice, what I personally do is ignore them, let the mods handle it. Now, if you're talking about like if you're actually like tilted by something, like you're bothered, you should get up and take a break. Like go get a glass of water, go stand away for a minute. If you're heated about something, don't just sit there and then be all grumpy and then start fuming and not like being entertaining anymore. Go and just be like, guys, I need a minute. Like this, even if it's just something in game, like this really pissed me off. Like I need to just step away for a second. If you need to end the stream, like end the stream, be like, guys, I'm just I'm sorry, like I don't want to do this anymore today. This happens to me with even technical issues, not even trolls, but like having tech problems really brings down my mood, and sometimes I just need to like, all right guys, like I'll come back in an hour or something, like just I need to cool down. So yeah, don't be afraid to take a break. Next question is, how can you as streamers forget about being perfect? I struggle by not wanting to stream because I have so many issues like dropping frames. How do you personally get over not having the best quality and just enjoy the experience? I think this has to it depends on your goals. I mean, you should if you're serious about streaming and you're like, I want to, become famous and rich and I want to grow and I want to be popular, like if you have all these ideas that streaming is going to shoot off for you and become your job, take a step back and rethink the way that you're going into streaming.
I think for me, when it comes down to like not being perfect, it's like one thing is nobody's perfect. No stream is perfect. Just ditch the idea of perfect altogether. It's not a thing. Perfection is not a thing. So you have to like separate each of these issues you're having down into more manageable tidbits. Like if the issue you're having is that your internet isn't good enough to hold a stream, well then, okay, why is it that I want to stream? What am I doing this for? And can I still accomplish these goals running a lower quality stream? Can I still accomplish these goals not streaming at all? If your issue is that your computer isn't good enough to run a stream, then be like, all right, well, is what I'm doing right now enough for me to keep going personally? Am I able to justify spending the money on an upgrade if I'm not going to get anything back from it? Am I still okay with spending that money and that time? Because you can never guarantee that you will get anything back from it at all. So it has to be for you first.
Mm-hmm.
If your issue is that your graphics aren't good enough, or that you feel like you're music that you're putting out, if you're a musician, isn't good enough, then it just comes down to like, what exactly are you looking for and why? Like, break it down for yourself, and then like take that time to analyze what you're trying to do, because perfection is not, you'll never get it. Don't go for perfection.
Right.
Because you're
And the
just
popular
setting yourself up for negativity.
Yeah, and the popular streamers that you see, like, they didn't just like turn on the stream and they were like had the perfect audio and visual quality and they were the most entertaining person ever. Like, you know, it's a learning process. So if you're having, you know, take a look back at your VODs and, you know, if you're dropping frames, figure out why. Like, you know, if your audio sucks, like, be like, okay, can I just tweak this to make it a little bit better? Can I make do with what I have? You know, Christmas is coming up. Can I ask for like a headset or a microphone from my parents or something? You know, like take that opportunity to learn and improve your stream. You know, don't feel like, you know, you don't have to be perfect. It's a learning process.
One of the things for me is that, one, I still have my very first stream saved and I'll never delete it because it's utter crap. It's garbage. I was streaming on a laptop. I had a $25 headset mic. The game is like jumping all over the place, but it shows me how far I've come. And that's like comparing yourself with yourself is much better than trying to compare yourself with other people. And two, just a little bit ago, I saw on Twitter Ann Munition, who is a huge streamer, and she has a very good setup. She's got 2 PCs, she has a mixer, she's got the mic, she's got a quality camera and everything. She had to take all of her stuff down and take a travel streaming setup with her, and she had the same Blue Yeti that's like $60 or whatever, and a Logitech webcam, and that was like, and one PC. And when it comes down to it, if you can't put on a good stream with the bare bones equipment, then it doesn't matter what $1,000 camera you buy, you still won't be able to put on a good stream. It's not the equipment you have. It's like you as a broadcaster, and the equipment can help, and it can make your stream clearer and nicer to listen to and more comfortable to watch. But in the end, like, you cannot blame your stream quality or how perfect you are on the equipment you have, unless your internet literally cannot send out a stream, in which case, like, it's out of your control. Like, it's your internet, and you're just gonna have to be okay with sending out a stream that buffers, or just not stream at all. The first game I played was Diablo 2. It's like literally in my VODs. You can check it
out. Let's see. If you could see something from viewers that would make taking care of your mental health easier as streamers, what would it be?
I think the thing for me. Oh, sorry. I was just talking a lot. You go ahead.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
I think the thing for me is that a lot of the things that streamers get that is negative feedback in terms of like taking time to take care of themselves is when they take a lot of time off and they come back and their sub count or their viewer count is a lot lower. They feel like they shouldn't have taken that time off at all. And that one's really hard because a lot of people want to save their resubs for when you come back. And people have they're uncomfortable with waiting the little bit to like have it return to how it was. And so I feel like the number one thing for me is it's harder to hear the positive voices, because we always focus on the negative ones. One negative voice will drown out 100 positive ones. So be those 100 positive voices. Right? Like, if someone is taking that time off, just send a tweet, like reach out on Twitter and be like, hey, I'm like, it's really cool that you're taking this time to yourself. I'll be there when you come back. Like, thank you for setting a good example. Or just like, if you're financially able to, like, one of the things that makes me feel like really good, like, and this is like, it's only if you're financially able to, but like having someone send through a tip, like even just $5 when you're not live, and be like, here, I was thinking about you. And that's like above and beyond, but that's one thing that I found like makes me feel like okay, like it's okay that I'm taking this time off, because like here's this person financially saying it's okay that you're taking this time off. Having like, but just like that, even with like the tweet, like reaching out like that, it's the same acknowledgement, whether it's financial or not. I mean, financial speaks a little bit heavier for someone who's full time, but like you can still just like send a tweet that says like, hey, like good on you, I am still here and I still like your shit. Or like if they have content like on YouTube, or if they're putting out content on Instagram or Twitter, responding to that is a really good way to reinforce that, hey, like I'm still here with you and and following you, and I'm still engaged with your content even though you're taking this time off, not just disappearing. If you really want to be a supportive, like this is from the viewer's standpoint, they ask what you can do as a viewer, and so that's what I'm giving you. Also, like if I'm taking time off and my Discord is like a ghost town, it makes me feel really bad, like personally. Like if I have to be the one person who's always making conversations happen, I feel like I feel really good when I go back to my Discord and I've missed 200 messages, because my community exists without me. There's still a community even when I'm not there. And that makes me feel really, really good when I take time off and I see that they're still going without me. Right. Finding people who will support, like your subs who support each other. Like there's a lot of my subs who stream as well. And when you're not there, them being like, oh, hey, like we're all watching a CGAC right now. She's streaming, and being like, yes, like they're still all being a community and supporting each other, even though I'm not here like pushing for that to happen. That can be really feel really good, like as a broadcaster taking time off as well.
Yeah. I mean, I think for me mentally is just like not getting a hard time if I'm like running late, or like I have to end early, or I have to miss a day, and then like I already feel bad, and then when the viewers are like giving me a hard time about it, it's kind of like oh god, like I'm sorry, but like I have this thing, I don't want to have to like explain myself, like guys, I need a break, like I'm not there, like, and then have like people like being like, oh, where were you yesterday, like, oh, you're half an hour late. It's like, I'm sorry, like you don't know what I just had a super stressful morning, like I'm just picking myself back up to stream, like you don't really know what that streamer's has going on in their life, so like just cut up some slack. We try our best, but it's not easy to just like do like stream as much as we do and also put on like a smile and be entertaining all the time. Like sometimes you just everyone has like their down days, and a lot of us just try to push through that. But Jessy, did you want to touch on that a little bit? Or
I think Blue pretty much covered a lot of the things that I was going to say. I mean, I'm part-time and casual, so the things that do happen where people tweet at me and saying like, hey, miss you, or they still start up conversations like, hey, did anyone see the new Star Wars? Oh, we should make a spoiler channel or whatever in Discord. Just showing that it's a community and not just a cult following of me, because I don't want that. I don't enjoy being the center of attention, but I do like being a pillar of, hey, I'm making this community of people who like this, this, and this. If you like these things and like discussing them, come and be a part of our community. And you don't have to be just a part of my community. There's all these cool people that I raid, or I auto host during the day, or I tweet out and retweet, like go hang out with them too. Like I've seen plenty of times where there was like, someone who was regular for me, and then they raided with me with someone else and they never show up to my channel anymore. And I go back to that channel a few months later and they're like a mod for them, and they're like, they found their place on Twitch. And that's what I like personally. I like helping people find a community and a group of people that work for them. And that's not always going to be me, or maybe my channel changes. I used to be just a World of Warcraft streamer and just Blizzard games streamer. And so when I switched away from that and I did a bunch of variety, people didn't show up anymore. And then when I stopped doing just variety and I focused on indie games or talked about mental health, some people left and some people joined, and that's okay, because like we said before, we can't control our viewers, we can't control what they like watching, or maybe they do like watching us, but real life got a hold of them and they need to focus on that right now. So keeping all those things in mind do help when you do have to take a break for real life, or going to a convention, or because you're sick, and so on.
We don't have any more questions, I don't think, but if you guys have any closing thoughts, closing comments.
There was one more that I saw. It was up a little ways. Let me oh no, you already got it. Never mind. You did it. You did the thing.
The talking one.
Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, I'm giving you guys the floor if you guys have any closing comments about mental health that you like to stress as we wrap it up.
I think for me that it really comes down to self-awareness. Not being afraid to admit that you need a helping hand. Not beating yourself up for sometimes being weak. And needing that help. Being cognizant of what you share, what you choose not to share, and with mental health stuff as influencers, I feel like it's super important for us to set an example of anxiety and depression are normal. A lot of people have to deal with them. A lot of people, it's a seasonal thing. So for me, it's like a really big hormonal thing. For a lot of people, it's just all the time. And to pretend like they are not is it's really harmful for people who feel like they have to hide that. And as an influencer, being open and informed and trying to, even if you do suffer from depression, be a force, focus on the positive things. I like to focus on the actions that I'm taking, like going to see my therapist and stuff like that, as opposed to I feel like garbage day after day after day after day after day. That isn't going to help people who are also suffering. What's going to help them is seeing that the actions that you take. And also sometimes the reason that I was able to hook up with anxiety gaming is because I tweeted out one day, things are hard. And then someone saw that and connected me, and you sometimes that just happens. That as an influencer, that shouldn't be the majority of your influence. You don't want your mark on the world to be a negative one. But recognizing that destigmatizing mental health and treating mental illness is a huge thing. And as someone with any kind of audience, it's our responsibility to take those steps if we want to, if that's something that we want to do, to make sure that you recognize where you can help and where you can't, and not make yourself feel bad about that too. Like we were talking about earlier, if someone reaches out to you with suicidal thoughts or feelings, be like, I cannot help you. This is not my job. And I can't be responsible for whether you live or die. That's not something I can do as a person. And that's the extreme example, but those are the things that come up as someone who has a lot of people who are emotionally invested in you and your content. Recognizing where you can help and where you have the space to help and where you can't, and separating that and being willing to say that without beating yourself up about it. I feel like a lot of the times, especially for me, one of the things that makes me feel worse than anything else is myself making me feel bad about the things that I ought to feel bad about. I can't help this person, and so I need to feel bad about that. Or I took 2 days off last week, and so I need to feel bad about that. Or I forgot that I had front page time today, right now, and committed to this, and I need to feel bad about that. It's fine. But those are all things where there's a certain point where you have to stop making yourself feel worse about all the things you're doing, because like you can only do so much, you know?
Yeah.
So like I think that being mindful and conscious of your own limitations and not kicking yourself about them is like super, super important.
Well said. Jessy?
I think it's important for people to realize that even if you are a full-time broadcaster, Twitch isn't everything. There are plenty of full-time startup entrepreneurs who will say the same thing. People who work full-time, who are managers or presidents of their branches within their companies, that will say the same thing. You need to have a healthy work-life balance. And sometimes that means that you need to put life in front of work. And when you are able to recharge and when you are able to bring in, look, I have gotten back into reading. I haven't read since I was in high school and it makes me feel really great. And once that becomes a part of your routine, maybe you can introduce it to your cast and do book discussions or book clubs, but you don't ever have to do that. You should have hobbies that are outside of Twitch, even if it's still related to gaming. Maybe there's just one game on your PlayStation that you only play yourself and you don't ever stream because it's your time to have downtime. And that's still something you could bring up. Yeah, I just finished Horizon Zero Dawn. Oh, did you stream it? No, but it was great. Like I had a really good time, and those sort of things. I think it's really important for people to realize that it's okay to have other things in your life other than Twitch, and it's beneficial more so than not to have other things in your life other than Twitch, as a caster, as a moderator, as a viewer, because it makes you a more well-rounded person and it makes you feel better about yourself and your accomplishments when you're able to say, yes, I did this, this, and this. And they're all semi-related because they're all things that I'm enjoying and I'm good at, or I fail out all the time, but it's okay because I have time. I have fun while I fail at it. Such as like Dark Souls and trying to beat it. People fail at it all the time, but they still say, oh, this is enjoyable when I'm not raging or whatever. So yeah, that's something that I want people to take away with.
Awesome. And, just as a final, disclaimer, we're not licensed professionals. So as we have mentioned, like if you guys, if you're feeling like really, really bad, we've listed some resources. Get help, talk to somebody. It's not the end of the world. Like, don't be afraid to go and get some help. And hopefully these resources and these tips that we mentioned, they may not help you. Some may help you better than others. So do what works for you. We don't have a golden book here. Mental health is this extremely difficult and complicated topic to talk about. But I think Bluejay and Jessy, you guys did a fantastic job. Thank you guys for coming on the show. Where can we find you on the interwebs?
You can find me on twitch.tv/Bluejay every week. I'm on twitch.tv/Roll20 app on Thursdays and twitch.tv/DND on Fridays. On Twitter, I'm Bluejay_712, and that was my dog. She's very cute. But that's where you can find me.
I'm JessyQuil, JesssyQuil, pretty much everywhere that matters. And if I'm not that there, then it's not me or it's a personal account. So leave me alone. On Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Steam, and Twitch. Those are my main things. I also have a website where I post my blogs every few weeks talking about various things, cybersecurity and mental health. And, I just played this game and it made me research this cool new thing. So, yeah.
Awesome. And I'm Loco, the host of the Stream Scene. You can find me at twitch.tv/Loco, twitter.com/Loco2525. And you can check out our YouTube channel, the StreamerSquare YouTube channel, and the website. If you guys want to catch past VODs of the Stream Scene, they're both here on Twitch and on YouTube. And the website has a lot of great resources. So if you guys are looking for some more help about streaming, definitely recommend checking out the website. So that's going to do it for us on the Stream Scene, guys. Thank you guys so much for being here. We really hope it's been helpful. If you guys have any feedback or anything, tweet at me, tweet Bluejay Jessy, let us know, how the show has helped you, if at all. So we really appreciate your guys' time, and we'll see you guys later. Stream Scene will be on a winter break for the holidays. We will be back in 2018. It's been a cool little first 9 episodes of the show. So we thank you guys for being here. Have a great winter break, and we'll see you guys soon.
Bye. Thanks.